Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 135th installment of the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshas Balak here in Israel. I guess for everyone else it'll be Parshas Chukas. So I spoke about that last week. Take a look at my video channel at Rabbi Chaim Kaufman on YouTube. You can see those. You can see that video and other videos I made on Parshas Chukas. Parshas Balak is about the story of Bilam, the non-Jewish prophet. So we spoke before about this idea of having prophecy does not make you righteous. Right? That I spoke about before, and it's about the whole point that God comes to him, he has prophecy, and Bilam still wants to curse the Jewish people. Right? So that is basically the story the story over here about Bilam, and he goes in Balak. Balak wants to curse the Jewish people, and Bilam wants a lot of money, and everything that goes down there. So one thing I wanted to hit a little bit different, different aspects of prophecy, and prophecy not making you righteous. The Torah here says, chapter 22. We're in chapter 22. Chapter 22. Verse 12. God says to Bilam, you shall not go with them, meaning with Balak. You shall not curse the people, for it is blessed. So God gives a command. God gives a command to Bilam, and he says, do not in any way, shape, or form, do not curse the Jewish people. Do not go with Balak. Two things. Now, the thing you have to understand about Bilam is Bilam was an unbelievable person, had the ability to have prophecy, and had the ability to understand God was speaking to him, and what God wanted from him. So, God tells him, I don't want you to go with Balak, and I don't want you to curse the Jewish people. Now, he understands this is God. It's no fake here. He understands where the command is coming from. If he understands where the command is coming from, how can he go against it? It's from God himself. God who created the world. God who took the Jewish people out of Egypt. Bilam understands who God is. He was able to figure out that split second when God was angry to be able to get the Jewish people to sin, and God to be angry and go against them and almost wipe them out. So, if you're talking about somebody like Bilam, where does it come off? Not listening to God. So how many times have people said, well, if God would speak to me, if God would show me an open miracle, if he'd show me an open miracle, I would believe. And the answer is that's not true. Because then, a person will go back to being the same person that they are. It's not enough of a draw for someone to uproot their life and change it. Imagine a person, a Jew's into marriage, and he's having, some sort of crisis. And he says, God, show me the right path. Show me you exist. And God makes a miracle for that person. Now, by logic, I would say, if this person understands God is God, and all the things that he does, doesn't that mean he has to listen to him? Doesn't that mean he has to return? He has to do tshuva? Sure. But he's married to a non-Jew. If he believes this is true, that means he's got to change. Nowadays, this person's been married 10 years, 20 years, has kids. All of a sudden, he's going to change. He's going to stop eating ham. He's going to stop eating cheeseburgers. He's going to start keeping Shabbos. He's going to start keeping the festivals. Family won't stand for it. So even if a miracle is done, the person's not going to change, but there might be something else going on. Maybe you won't see it as a miracle from God. Maybe you'll try and explain how it happened. Someone once told me 39 Scud missiles fall in Israel, don't do any, real damage, meaning killing people, going into buildings, all that. Most of them ended up in areas where there's no population. Well, someone said, yeah, I can figure that out on my calculator. I said, okay, what if it's 1 in a billion? What if it's 1 in a trillion? See, it can still happen. It's 1 in a trillion. 1 in 10 trillion, 5 billion, million, zillion. I mean, the odds are very slim. But a person would say, well, I'd rather hold on to those odds. What's the alternative? The alternative is, it must be, God runs the world, and that God's in charge, and that God protects his people. That's the way it would sound. Or how many times have I heard people say, well, give me an explanation, a rational explanation for this mitzvah, for that mitzvah, which doesn't have a rational explanation. I said, oh, you can't give me a rational explanation, I don't have to keep it. And if I would, then you tell me, nah, it's not that reason. Give me a better reason. That doesn't resonate with me. It's a good excuse. Doesn't resonate with me. Well, who cares? Is it true or it's not true? Find another reason. They'll make a million excuses why it's not good, why it's not true. Because at the end of the day, they don't want to change. They don't want to have to see the truth. But if you understand there is a God and he created the world, and God intervenes in history, there is divine providence, and then God comes to you, understand it's God himself. No fake here. And he says, don't do this. Now, he's not a robot. He can choose to obey or not obey. But I would think, if God spoke to me, or God spoke to others, yeah, it does take away our free will a little bit. Because then afterwards, how could you go against it? All right, that's the question. If you understand where it comes from, you still want to go curse the Jewish people? Yeah, because he's inherently evil. Just because God came to him, no guarantee he's going to listen. But he should. So where's the deterrent? Where is the deterrent? The answer is, the bigger the person, the greater the person spiritually, the greater his evil inclination. If your kid comes home, he's wearing these old clothes and he says, hi, today I'm Napoleon. You say, come on, your name is Beryl, Schmerl, whatever your name is. It's only a game. You're wearing these old clothes. You're not Napoleon. It's like, okay, I was just kidding. An adult dresses up in these old clothes. And they say, I'm Napoleon. Come on, how could you be Napoleon? Napoleon lived, a long time ago. He says, no, I'm Napoleon, incognito. So the more you understand, the higher the spiritual level, the greater their evil inclination. But I would think just the opposite. I would think that if a person's on a high spiritual level, and he had an epiphany, and he had this God experience, that was clear it was God. I'm not making things up here. It's clear as God. How could you be the same after? Doesn't make sense. I would think that a person has this epiphany, he's going to keep growing and growing and growing. He's going to run with it. That's why my Rebbe says you have a spiritual experience, you feel something. You run with it because it doesn't last that long. But it doesn't always work that way. The reason is the person doesn't want to listen to the message. Goes against his grain like Billup. Went against his grain to listen. I was God himself. And he understood where it came from. still, his soul is so corrupt, he can't change. Doesn't mean his evil inclination, his free will is taken away. But at the same time, he's not becoming greater spiritually. He's still going to try and finagle a way to be able to curse the Jewish people. God himself said, don't do it. And he put words in his mouth in the end to praise the Jewish people. See, deep down, he can't be helped. He can't make this major ma'apecha, this turnaround, to become a tzaddik, to become righteous. His evil inclination killed him, even though he knew the truth. Aren't the biggest anti-Semites out there? A lot of them. Don't they really know what the truth is? What did Hitler Yamach Shemoy V'Zichroi? May his name be blotted out. What did he say? The Jews are the conscience of the world. He was right. Because the Jews brought morality to the world. So what does Hitler do? He says, I'm going to eradicate that. I'm going to eradicate God. The Jewish God. Because I'm going to wipe out his people. And God allows him to a point. For whatever reason. But he understood a fundamental truth. Abraham came on the scene, brought absolute, God's absoluteness to the world. That there was one God. Everyone else running around with their pocket God. Here's Bob. Don't leave home without him. And they thought it was crazy. Has God ever spoken to you? No. At least at this point. Has he showed you any signs? No, but I know he exists through design. They're like, good luck. But through Abraham, through Isaac, through Jacob, through the rest of the Jewish people and at Mount Sinai, the Jews get the Torah. Torah's a law book. Plenty of things. Do this, don't do that. But it's also a book about ethics. It's a book about morality. Morality that doesn't change. The Torah doesn't change. Right? Not like the conservatives will say, you got to change with the times. No, we don't. It's called moral relativism. Morality changes. Not based on that time. Don't steal. Not based on what happened 3,500 years ago. Don't commit adultery. It has nothing to do with the times. Right? Those are things that are universal. So you might say we don't live in an agrarian society today. Right? That's true. But it doesn't mean the laws of the sabbatical year don't apply in the land of Israel. Doesn't mean, we don't give Meiser in the land of Israel. We don't take a tenth of the produce, fruits, vegetables. That still applies. Even though we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. The laws are forever. Some may not apply because of us, not because that they're not eternal. Right? We mentioned before, waters of the wayward woman. She was alone with someone that her husband said not to be alone with. These bitter waters, if what she did was, what the husband said is true, then she'll die. So where are the waters today? Since there was only people committing adultery, didn't have the same effect. There were other things as well that fell by the wayside. You can say, but isn't Torah eternal? Isn't it for all time? Yes. So what happened? We messed it up. Cities of refuge we don't have. Jewish people killed too many people. Didn't have the same effect. Oh, the Torah's not eternal. It's based on us. The rabbis understood that if we don't do what we're supposed to do, some of these things will go by the wayside. When God says it's eternal, is when we do the right thing. Then everything stays in its place. Even if we do the wrong thing, Shabbos doesn't get uprooted. Festivals don't get uprooted. There may be certain things that do, okay? Well, not because the Torah is not true. Not because we pick and choose. It's because we blew it, my language. We don't deserve it. It got abused. So you look at Jewish leaders, and we see where Bilam totally missed the boat. Aaron HaKohen, when the Shekhinah, when God's presence doesn't come down, in the inauguration of the Mishkan, he says it's because of me. I must have done something. It must have been through the sin of the golden calf. He didn't pass the buck. You didn't say this one's fault, that one's fault. He took blame for himself. Bilam talks like he's got two hands tied behind my back. What can I do? God won't let me curse. Why do you want to curse in the first place? Because you hate the Jewish people. You understand who the Jewish people are. What the role they've been on. What God has done for them. Anyone could be jealous. Lahavdil. Lahavdil. Make a big distinction there. I grew up in Boston. Patriots, doormats of the league. I left, become a dynasty. How many people out there hate the Patriots? A lot of people. Because they've been on a roll for 20 years. Unheard of in sports. Why do people hate them? Oh, they're cocky, they're this, they're that. They're good. And they're good every year. Till Tom Brady falls off the cliff. That's what they're waiting for. Be that as it may, somebody who's on a roll like that, everyone's going to hate them. They want to see someone else win. Jewish people at that time decimated the world power, Egypt. One of Pharaoh's advisors, Mr. Bilam himself, gave advice how to enslave the Jewish people. And after all that, what happens? All his wisdom, God decimates Egypt through plagues that are l'maala min hateva, that are above nature. Decimate the entire country. Not only that, Jews take all the wealth, leave the country. And then you have the miracle of the sea and all that. So Bilam's got an axe to grind. So he wants all this money to be able to curse the Jewish people. God's not going to let him. But even understanding at his level how great God is, heard of the miracles, saw Egypt get decimated, he understands the Jews are God's chosen people. He understands they're on the greatest role in the history of man that's ever been seen. That being true, of course he got disdain for the Jewish people. Of course he wants to see them cursed. Can't let that go. So even if God comes to him, inside he's still burning. He doesn't want to do the right thing. God wants to make an example out of him. Because the non-Jews are going to say, if we had a prophet of our own, we'd be just as good. We'd be even greater than the Jewish people. So God gave him Bilam. They complain, but you gave us Bilam. You didn't give us someone great as Moshe. They could complain either way. See, but Bilam understands that even though God comes to him, God demands he doesn't go with Balak, and he doesn't curse the Jewish people. Bilam understood he still hates them. He still wants to. Because witnessing God through prophecy and seeing what the Jewish people have done in history is too much for him to overcome. Now, would it have been great if he bowed himself on the ground, did tshuva, repented, became one of the righteous of the nations, doesn't have to convert? Wouldn't Bilam have said, what a great thing? Could have been a pedagogue for the nations. Could have admitted his wrong ways. So listen, I made a big mistake. Could have tremendous influence on the masses. Tremendously wise person. If not, it would have been one of Pharaoh's trusted advisors. But I would have thought that would have made a greater impact. Let God open his eyes. Let him see the truth. He saw the truth. He couldn't bear the truth. That's the difference. With all the prophecy, with all the ideas, all the rationales, Bilam is still defiant. So aren't we the same? Wouldn't we be the same as Bilam? All these people say, no, if I would see a miracle, I would change, but you wouldn't. You might have an epiphany, but you're not going to change. Because you have too much to give up. You have too much at stake. Somebody once told me many years ago, if I have to look into Torah, see it's true, this is a Jew talking. If I had to do that and see it's true and I have to change, I'm not willing to do it. Consequences are too great. This person was at least intellectually honest. Most people just make excuses. And that's all they are. If someone were to witness videos, one after another, of people who have out-of-body experiences, Jew or non-Jew, and they all say the same thing. Body, the soul hovers over the body, goes to this great light, sees the light flash before his eyes. All these things that the Zohar says is going to happen to a person when they die. Where does the Zohar come from? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? Wrote it the day of his death. It exemplifies the inner sanctum of what Torah is, a much deeper level. But if Jew or non-Jew, no agendas, come up to the same conclusion, every single person that flatlined should have been dead and come back to their body, they all say the same thing. Doesn't that show something? You think, wow, what a coincidence. If it happened to 2 people, maybe. If it happens to 12 people, 24 people, it shows it's the body and soul. It goes back to prove Genesis, where God says, I'm going to breathe into the life, into man. That's the soul. See, from here you have a soul. I mean, there are many other things this proves. But how many people are going to look at the information? Or how many people are going to poo-poo it and say, oh, that's nice. Very interesting. I'm not going to change. Yes, I've heard from a number of people, even if it's true, I am not going to change. Then you don't really believe it's true. If you believe there's a God through design, God through nature, you look at the human bodies, Chovos Levavos tells us. You look at nature. You see there's a designer. But they can make a mistake. What's the mistake? Okay, I understand there's a designer who say I have to follow him. Well, Abraham did not come to that conclusion. He came to the conclusion, if there's a designer, i.e. creator, then I have to follow him. How do I know what he wants from me? He's got a book. The old edition. 5 books of Moses, as it's called. So he told us what to do. Gave us an oral law. Gave us explanation. Torah is very vague. This is a natural conclusion one can make. But most people will never get there. Because their souls are too corrupt. They don't want to change. They're not interested in change. Even if it's true. Right? They may ask, how is this relevant to my life? Well, there are a lot of ways to prove that. You want to listen? No. Okay? I don't have to waste my time. But even if they would see the truth, to admit it's the truth is denying who they are. Is denying everything they've done up until this point. That's why so many people can look at me. You say, okay, that's your opinion, okay? I got a lot of proof why it's true. You want to have a discussion? No. I'm happy the way I am. Right, but it's not true either. How many people are truly happy? You say Torah's going to make me truly happy? It's going to give you tremendous meaning. It's going to show you there's an afterlife. That what we do in this world really matters. And the benefit a person can have from such a lifestyle. But most people won't get up to bat because they don't want the repercussions. They don't want to give up everything that they've done up until this point. For Christians, even harder. Because what's the last thing they have to give up is JC. Because if they don't give him up, you're going to fry in hell forever. And that's going to be a hard thing, because what if he's right? You know, people have told me, got family members, say, what, 40 years I've been lied to by the church? Yes. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear their life is a waste. Nobody wants to hear that. But I'm talking logic here. You got to take it to its logical conclusion. At the end of the day, the logical conclusion is God created the world. God cares for the world. He's in charge. Takes care of nature. Does all these things. So I have an obligation to serve him. To be subservient to him. Doesn't mean I always do the right thing. But that's the logical conclusion. And that's why for so many people they won't even look into it. Because what if he's right? I had a discussion with somebody once. And someone opened a Pandora's box. And they mentioned the word good. No, I'm good. This is good. So I asked them, turned it around a little bit, and said, what's the definition of good? How do you know it's good? Sort of turned them into a pretzel before they knew what hit them. In the end, they said, wow, I can't even believe I got in this discussion. I said, but how do you know what's good? Plenty of madmen out there thought they were doing good for the world. How do you know it's true? But to see if you're intellectually honest, as painful as it may be, you'll get to the truth. One way or another, you'll get to the truth. Because anyone watching this video has gotten there. Or otherwise, you're a masochist for listening to me. Either way, right? You came to the conclusion that this is false, this must be true. But most everyone else will live with falsehood. Falsehood sells. At the expense of my life, my afterlife. Because see, in order to get into a debate, they're only going to get into debate if they feel they have nothing to lose. But what if after all that, they're just making fun and this and that, but now you hit a raw nerve. Turn things on their heads. You say, by the way, what's good? What's your definition? Then they may turn it back and say, how do you know what's good? Because the Torah tells me. The Torah tells me what's good and bad. That there's reward and punishment. How does the Torah know? Good question. Because God tells us that He's going to pass everything down to Moshe. Moshe's trusted to Him. Spoke to him face to face. God gives Moshe Rabbeinu credibility. Mount Sinai, that credibility can't contradict Moshe. Can't add or subtract. Moshe, the greatest of all prophets. Now you're digging a little bit deeper. So how do I know though? I don't know what happened to Mount Sinai. We'll be a conservative Jew. Not sure what happened to Mount Sinai. Well, Torah tells me. God gave the Torah. Passed it down. How do I know it's the same? How do I know it hasn't changed? How do I know what it means? Oh, that's even a better question. Right, last week's Parsha for us. And now this week's Parsha for everyone else. Parshas Chukas. Does it make sense? The red heifer? No. Cohen becomes impure. It makes someone pure. It makes no sense. Has to be understood. You need oral law to explain what the Torah is. How do I know where oral law came from? Once you get this far, you got them. Because then you bring out all the proofs. You got them to dig in. Some people won't even let you go that far. And as I mentioned, I had a discussion with somebody many years ago. Once I got to this thing of goodness, and I had them trapped pretty much, they said, they ended the conversation. They didn't want to go to the natural conclusion. They knew if they'd gone further, they're in trouble. So a lot of people won't even let you get that far. Because they will not go according to what the conclusion is. Now, even if you're lucky, and someone agrees to everything you say, there is a God, there is oral tradition, I have to keep the Torah. Great, what are you going to start with? Well, I didn't say I was going to change. But at least now I see the validity and it's and it's true. Well, now what? Could be cognitive dissonance. That's the thing. Once you get somebody, then you have to get over the hump. If they're intellectually honest, they're going to have to change. At some level. But what if they're in a situation, they have a family, they have a spouse? Rabbi Ori Zohar should be well. When he did tshuva, his wife wasn't religious. And I went to his Rebbe. His Rebbe told him, don't worry, she'll come around. He said, how much time do I give you? He says, don't worry, she'll come around. Eventually, she came around. She had to see it for herself. Some people may not be so lucky. Well, what's the point? The point is you can see things right in front of your face. And even if you would admit, which is a falsehood, but even if you admit, I see this as a miracle, I see this is God's direct hand. Okay, now what? Does that obligate me in anything? The answer is, when a person sees a miracle, recognizes a miracle, and doesn't change, that's 10 times worse. So we mentioned many times, as God says, why do this miracle for you? You didn't even move a muscle, you didn't change. Change is hard, even in the face of absolute truth. And God made a point with Bilam. As great as Bilam was, as intellectual as he was, with all the great things that happened, he wasn't willing to change. His nature wouldn't allow him to change. So you're going to say, that was by Bilam. What does it say for us? So we're much weaker. But are we influenced by society? The very few who have any intellectual spine whatsoever, if they see the truth, how many of them are going to change? So, plenty of Baalei Tshuva in the world. People return to Judaism, even though they grew up Orthodox. You're looking at one. You have converts. Come out of the church, whatever. So you see, there are people who search and get there. We're still losing 35,000, 40,000 a year to assimilation, to intermarriage. They're brain dead. Their souls are dead. It's like trying to start a Jeep with a 9-volt. Impossible. Some people, it's about being mushy-gushy, about feeling. Other people, it's intellectual, right? They'll come to Torah observance, through intellect. But how many people, even through intellect? Certainly, why would they look into this? The claim doesn't have any relevance to their life. But they won't even enter the discussion. Too wussy, my language. They're too wussy to enter a discussion. What are you afraid of? I'm sitting in a cult. I'm so sorry I have to listen to this. We love questions. We always ask questions. What are you afraid of? You're a fanatic. Thank you very much. What are you afraid of? I know exactly what you're afraid of. You're afraid little old me might be right. And if I'm right, what does that mean? It means your life's a sham. So therefore, I'm not even going to enter a discussion. You're not even going to touch me, okay? It's your choice. You'll find out the hard way. But it's pretty amazing. People with MAs, PhDs, totally ignorant. Not interested in this intellectual stimulation. Because it comes at a price. And what's the price? The price is very simple. If I find out it's true, then what? Again, my language, you're cooked. Got to change. I know someone, kids became religious, came here, moved to Israel to an Orthodox community. At the age of 65, became religious. Him and his wife. The person just passed away. 65! Because he was straight. He was honest. And he was honest with himself. And he said, makes sense. Because it made sense. He had to change. So how many people out there take that challenge? That be willing to fight to the end to prove they're right. Not too many. Why? Very simple, because they have everything to lose. Because if the Torah is true, got to change. It's going to be extremely uncomfortable. No more canasta. No more mahjong. It'll be about kugel, Shabbos. It'll be about real stuff, not fluff. So as great as Bilam is, right, this is the message. As great as he is, he can't do the right thing until God forces him. He still wants to curse the Jewish people. He can't. So he gets them to sin some other way. It burns too much inside. You know, and that can happen to others. They just won't see it. They're just not interested. They don't want to see it. They'll just make fun. They'll scoff. They'll mock. So you throw something at them, but I know I'm right. I can actually prove it. You interested? Nope. Not interested. Thought you were open-minded. Right? Someone, once said how close-minded I was. Send my kids to university. I said, I'd be more than happy to send my kids to university. You send your two boys to yeshiva. Oh, I would never do that. It's a cult. They're going to get brainwashed. Yeah, it'll be good. Their brains will get squeegee. That is good. But you don't know what a cult is. Anyone who's been to yeshiva knows it's not a cult. No question. I mean, it's just stupidity. Say such a thing. Yeah, but I'm open-minded. I'm worldly. You're a scumbag. You live in the dark ages. Send your kids to university. Send your kids to yeshiva for a couple weeks. Be more than happy to send my kids to university afterwards. I would never do that. Game over. Because what happens if it's true? And even if you know it's true, does not mean in any way, shape, or form you're going to change. Because, let's call a spade a spade. Most people do not want answers. They're not searching for the truth. Because if they were, what would happen if they found it? It's kind of like watching a cat chase its tail. What happens after the cat grabs it? Find something else to do. Not in this case. This is life-changing. Got to man up. You got to be thrilled to know what the truth is. Or you can stay a wuss and live in the dark. So I want to remind everyone I have a class every Tuesday night. 9 o'clock New York time. It's on Duties of the Heart, learning about faith in God, faith and belief in God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock New York time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Give a question and answer session. People can ask whatever they want. And I also have conversion classes. Anyone interested? You can find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion and Judaism. You can find me, you can send me an email, rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Everyone have a great Shabbos.